listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. You can always send an email to xzone at xzoneradiotv.com on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And you can listen to the X-Zone 24/7, 365 at www.xzoneradiotv.com. And that is the same place where you listen to the show Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. until midnight. The X-Zone is heard around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and in Europe on Radio X. Wow, my guest this hour is Paul David Roberts. And what we're going to be talking about this hour, Paul Dale Roberts. And we're going to be talking about a variety of topics, but I'll just give you a little bit of a hint about David's past. From 1973 to 1976, he served with the U.S. Army's Drug Suppression Team, CID, Criminal Investigation Division in Germany. Working undercover narcotics from 1979 to 1986, he served in the U.S. military intelligence. And that's all we're going to say about his military record. It goes on, and it's very distinguished. But we're going to be talking to our guest this hour, Paul, about the paranormal. Now, he's the owner of Halo Paranormal Investigations. In 2004, he became a paranormal investigator, and with over 1,000 investigations under his belt and over 1,000 paranormal articles he has written, led him to be in 8 featured documentaries, from History Channel's Monster Quest to Conversations of a Serial Killer by 2-4 Production to Showtime's Penn and Teller's Bull, Mayan Prophecy, 2012, to 3 biography channels, My Ghost Stories, to Mysteries of Angels and Demons. And that's just a scratching the surface. And Paul Dale Roberts, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for having me on. I'm ready.
My friend, it's a great pleasure. So how did you get interested in the paranormal from being a military intelligence, working narcotics in the military? Where did the switch happen?
Well, it all started off when I was like a small child. I was living on Effie Street in Fresno, California, and I actually lived in a haunted house. All kinds of things were happening to me. I was pushed into a heater. I saw apparitions and all kinds of weird stuff. As I grew older, I was wondering in my mind, what I experienced, was that really paranormal, or was that like childhood nightmares? So I became really interested in paranormal. I started reading up Brad Steiger's books on paranormal, Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods. I became really interested, and my life just sort of sent me in that direction. When I started working with CID, I learned my investigative skills with CID and got into military intelligence, and somehow then, before I knew it, I was introduced to this woman who was in the paranormal field, and she introduced me to a group of people. I was there to write a story because I was also into journalism, and before I knew it, I became a paranormal investigator.
Wow. I have to ask you, during your tenure as a paranormal investigator, Has there ever been a time when you, a former military guy, military intelligence, narcotics, that you actually had the hair on the back of your neck stand right up?
Yes, when I was with the Photo Interpretation Center in Korea, I had a top secret SBI, which is Special Background Investigation Clearance. And I was an intelligence analyst, and I was working with photo interpreters. And their job was to look at photographs from satellites and from reconnaissance aircraft of North Korea and China.
Right.
But on one particular day, 6 photos came in. And those 6 photos were pictures of UFOs.
All right, we've got to do a little bit of a cliffhanger here because I've got to take a short break. Exonation, my guest this hour is Paul Dale Roberts. We're talking about the paranormal. We're going to be talking about UFOs and much more. Stay tuned. The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, will return with my special guest this hour, Paul Dale Roberts, as we continue from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Our guest this hour is Paul Dale Roberts. We're talking about, my gosh, the paranormal, things that go bump in the night, ghosts. But we're talking right now about the photos that you were looking at, Paul, and there they were, 6 UFOs.
Right. On one particular day, I was just completely blown away because 6 photos came in. Mm-hmm. And on those 6 photos were 6 different type of UFOs. You had a cigar-shaped one, you had one that looked like ball lightning, you had a disc-shaped one, and it's one that looked like a triangle. It was all these various UFOs that were taken in outer space by our satellites. And on the back of each photo, it said intelligent movement. And each photo represented a video. So there was a video that went to each photo. I didn't see the videos. Mm-hmm. And the photos went to the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. And from there, it went to the CIA. And there, it went to a black hole. I never knew what happened to the photos. And at that point in time, I knew, even though that Project Blue Book was closed, mm-hmm. that military intelligence was still looking into UFOs.
Wow. Let me ask you something, Paul. As a professional and member of the military and now a professional paranormal UFO investigator, why do you think the governments of the world continue to suppress the information of their existence?
What I think, Rob, is just like how Europeans came to America, and how the Native American Indians, their society just crumbled, with the presence of Europeans. I mean, with our disease and everything else, but also too just the religious concept. Everything would just fall apart. And if our religious concepts were to fall apart, society itself may fall apart.
That is a scary supposition, but how long can they keep this charade up with more and more people with the ability to take high-definition photos, cell phones, more members of the military are coming out, astronauts are coming out. Do they really think that they can continue to perpetrate the truth embargo on the citizens of the world?
Rob, with everybody carrying the camera and people all all over the world taking pictures of strange things, strange phenomenon, UFOs and everything else. It's just a matter of time that they're going to have so much evidence that people are just going to roll over and say, hey, it's really happening. We are being visited by extraterrestrials. Yeah, and it's just a matter of time. It's maybe 20 years from now, where we'll just have just an overabundance of evidence, where people will have to finally admit, the government will finally have to admit that there is extraterrestrials here on Earth.
Based on your experience, once again, as a member of the military intelligence family network, as well as the investigating that you're doing now, do you believe that these extraterrestrials pose a threat to humanity? Do we need to fear them?
Well, one of the rumor mills that I used to hear in military intelligence all the time, that people who were a little bit closer to working with that, I wasn't that close to it. I saw the 6 photos, and that was it. But there was people a little bit closer to investigating or having some kind of paperwork in their hand where they had some knowledge, or maybe they were just BSing me. But there was a few people, intelligence analysts, that were talking about that there was a variety of aliens on Earth already, some who were on our side and some who were not on our side. So, and they were referring to a variety of grays. And they were talking about that they had what is called angel stops. And angel stops is basically where the government had some kind of agreement with the grays, where they would allow certain amount of people to be abducted, and those were called angel stops. And with that, we would get some of their technology, some knowledge about their technology. And somehow the grays overexceeded the angel stops. Were abducting more people than the military was allowing, that the government was allowing, and then somehow we got into a war with them. And that was the rumor going around in military intelligence. I don't know, what the connection was for these intelligence analysts to have that kind of information. So I to this day, I don't know if they were just, joking around with me. Were they really serious? But that was the story that was being told.
What is your take on cattle mutilations?
What I think, my theory is that it somehow has to do with the DNA. The aliens are very much attracted to our DNA, and cow's DNA supposedly is very close to human DNA. So there's some kind of experiment going on, and that's what's happened with the cattle mutilations.
Do you think that there are alien bases on the moon, as some people suggest?
Yeah, I've read up a lot of stories. I've seen some YouTube videos on it and stuff like that. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I do believe that there's possibly alien bases on the moon.
Yeah.
But as for U.S. military bases, I don't know. And you hear a lot from the abductees where they're taken into an underground place on Earth, and they encounter grays, and they encounter reptilians, and they encounter military personnel. So perhaps the military is somehow, some kind of secret military, a shadow military that is working with the grays. I don't know. But there's so many people saying it. When you have that many people saying it, then there's got to be some kind of form of truth.
You just have to keep on peeling the layers off the onion until you get to the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And same thing with military intelligence. A lot of the people I work with, there was just so many onions there, and there's so much peeling to do to try to find the truth.
All right, let's talk about the other aspects of investigations that you do. Let's talk about the paranormal side right now, because we only have an hour, and I'd like to cover as much as I could. What is your scariest and most believable demon case that you've worked on?
Okay. There was a case that I did in which these two women were saying that they were being harassed by a demon around about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and it would appear as a black mass, and that they were actually being sexually assaulted. So I went on this investigation, and I was interviewing these ladies. They were really, really nice, very sweet in nature. One was in her 60s, and her goddaughter was in her 30s. And at some point in time, the one woman who's in her 60s says, Paul, this demon has bitten me. And she showed me bite marks on her legs and on her chest. And her goddaughter walked in, and she had bite marks on her legs and her chest. And I started thinking to myself, well, maybe, perhaps, they gave those marks to themselves. And as I continued on with the interview, she goes, Paul, I also do have visions. I said, what kind of visions? She goes, I have visions of killing men. Well, mind you, I was the only man. Mind you, I was the only man in that house. So I was getting a little bit nervous. And I said, how do you see yourself killing men? And she says, I see myself taking a baseball bat and just really bashing her brains out.
Now, did you see a baseball bat at this time anywhere?
Well, I'm going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, Rob. Okay. So anyway, as I'm talking to her, if I had a stack of Bibles, I would swear on it. But her face was actually distorting to something more evil. She really looked evil. She didn't look sweet anymore. And about 15 minutes later, I looked towards the living room, and the goddaughter is going around in circles, holding a baseball bat.
Oh, my God.
With this crazy look on her face. And at that point in time, I'm running out the front door with my laptop and running to my car. And she's chasing me with the bat. So that was one of my most scariest. I'm not afraid of ghosts.
Right.
But I'm definitely afraid of a 30-year-old woman with a baseball bat.
You know what? I don't blame you at all. I really don't. My dad has a saying, you don't fear the dead, you fear the living. Hey, listen, Paul,
Right.
you and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Great talking to you. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Exonation, our guest this hour is Paul Dale Roberts, and we'll both be back on the other side of this commercial break as we look for a baseball bat. No more baseball bat jokes. And we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Scary stuff. But that's what makes the paranormal sometimes scarier than reality. All right, we'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Wow, Exonation. Paul Dale Roberts is our special guest, and I've got to tell you something. Over the break, Well, talking to Paul, it was like, my God, did you call the cops on them?
Actually, they were harassing me for a good while because they thought I was going to write their story.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't write the story because there was more to it than Rob than I'm talking about on the radio.
Yeah.
It was really when she was describing about killing men, she was very descriptive, and I just didn't feel like putting that into an article. So they kept on harassing me, and at some point in time, I did get the cops involved.
My God.
And they said that they interviewed her, told her to leave me alone, and they said that she also too has a record of being in a psychiatric hospital. So there was some craziness there, but her face and the goddaughter's face, their faces actually did distort to something evil. I really believe to this very day that they were possessed.
What was the one investigation, Paul, that made a believer of you when it comes to the afterlife?
Rob, that was a case over in Citrus Heights, and it's something I'll never forget. But I had like 15 investigators at the time, and they were scouts, and scouts are ghost hunters in training. And I put 5 in one room, 5 in another room, and 5 in another room. And 10 of them in two rooms were falling asleep because nothing was happening. And in this one room, as I walked in, you can hear a little girl giggling. And I said, did you hear that? And they go, yeah. They said, it's a little girl giggling. And she giggles again. And I said, that's right in front of me. No more than 3 feet in front of me on the corner of this bed. I can't see her, but I can hear her giggling. She giggles again. I put my head down, and I go, hello. And she goes, hello.
Oh, my gosh.
And that just totally blew me away. And at that point in time, I had all 15 people go into that room. We conducted like a little seance, and the whole room, there was a series of knocks on the wall, and the walls sounded like they were just ripped apart. It sounded like something out of Hellraiser where the Cenobites are going right through the walls. And they're all running out the door. All 15 of these scouts, these ghost hunters in training, are running out the door. They're scared to death. And I had to get them back into that room and reconvene and do the seance again. So this time, we did the seance. We had 3 walkie-talkies on the floor, and they're all on the same channel. And as we're conducting the seance, one of the walkie-talkies turns on, and it's a man's voice, and he goes, get out! And they're all running out the door again. So, and then finally the occupant of the house, she looks at me and she goes, Paul, she goes, I have to live here. Maybe we should end this. And I go, yeah, we'll end this. So I sent everybody home. She goes, you're welcome to stay in this room. So I spent the night in that room. The video camera was running. And as I was sleeping, there was a series of knocks on the bedroom, on the bed headpost. And you can hear a man whispering. You can hear a child moaning at the foot of the bed. And you can hear a woman say, Paul, Paul, Paul. And I slept through the whole thing.
Wow.
And that made me a believer. I mean, with all that happening, all the evidence that we captured and everything else, and to hear a little child say hello to me after I said hello just blew me away.
Do you think that these spirits actually want to communicate with us, that they must be, let's say, how do they deal with what they're going through? You know, they must be totally confused. They must be out of whack.
Well, you know what I experienced, Rob, is a lot of the ghosts, they don't want to communicate with ghost hunters because usually ghost hunters are not afraid of them, and they have nothing to say to us. If they can't scare you, and I think that fear is the energy they like to feed off. And if they can't feed off fear, there's no point. It's like, okay, I'm not going to knock on the wall because he's telling me to knock on the wall. And as a paranormal investigator, you know, you always capture these pictures of orbs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what are orbs? Yeah, orbs can be almost anything. It could be skin flakes, it could be lint, it could be dust, it could be light refractions, it could be almost anything. How do we prove that orbs are actually something paranormal? And there was one case that we had where this guy, he says, well, the ghost, Emily, is draining me. I have to sit on the couch because my energy is just depleted. And I said, oh, really? I said, okay. So we had 2 cameras, and I said, Emily, if you're here, appear above his head. So we snap a photo, 2 cameras, and we capture an orb on top of his head. That showed intelligent movement. And that's something I learned from military intelligence when I saw the UFOs, intelligent movement. So I said, okay, let's try something else. I said, Emily, if you like him, kiss him. So we snapped 2 photos with 2 cameras, and we captured an orb on his mouth. Intelligent movement. That was something I could deem as a spiritual containment field. That is something I can definitely deem as paranormal because it's doing what I'm telling it to.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people say that ghosts they don't even know they're dead. How can that happen? How can something that's dead not know it's dead?
You know, I hear the same thing, Rob, and that doesn't make any sense to me because why is it if we're doing an investigation and let's say the entity is actually communicating with us,
right?
It seems like it's aware of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they even will get an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, where it's actually saying one of the investigators' names. So I don't really believe in that theory because I've never experienced it. Out of 1,000 investigations I've been to, I've never had any kind of communication with any ghost where it says, I think I'm living in the past. I think I'm living in 1870, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have anything like that. Yeah, they seem like they're very much aware. And one of the things, it seems like if they go into the light, they never come back. That's it. So it seems like they have a choice of going into the light, and if they don't go into the light, they have unfinished business. Let's say it's a grandmother, and she watches her granddaughter having a baby, and she wants to stick around and be an angel to the baby.
Right.
They said, okay, if you don't want to go into the light, you're stuck in this house, and maybe an energy field is around the house where they can't leave that house. And the only way they can leave that house is if you take an item in which are attached to, and you take it, let's say, to your house, then they can travel from point A to point B because now you created some kind of like wormhole from the haunted house to your own house, allowing that spirit to follow you because you have, let's say, the grandmother's diary. She's very much attached to it, but now you are in possession of it, so she wants to watch over it, and she follows you home.
I've heard cases where people have gone to garage sales or to antique stores or to estate auctions. Never had a problem before they brought a piece of furniture in from that yard sale, that estate auction, or that antique store.
Well, that happened in Austin, Texas in 1984, where a woman went to an estate sale. And I'm standing outside. It's cold out here, so I didn't want to. That's why my teeth are shivering.
Why are you why are you standing outside?
Because, well, inside, my wife's watching TV and she's watching her favorite show, so I don't want to interrupt her. So I'm out here where it's more quiet. So,
all right. How long have you been married?
Not too long.
I see, and you've learned very fast that a happy wife is a happy life.
Yeah, exactly, Ron.
Oh, I hear you on that one, my friend.
Yeah. But back to Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, so this woman, she bought a grandfather's clock and she brought it home.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, she has all this paranormal activity happening in her house. And as soon as she got rid of the grandfather's clock, the paranormal activity stopped. So, yeah, sometimes the energy is attached to an item, and a lot of times we get calls where the people say, "Hey, Paul, we have an item here we believe that has some kind of bad energy to it." And so when we take it out of the house, then that paranormal activity does stop. It seems like it stops. So, also, too, have you ever heard of living ghosts?
No.
Okay, living ghosts. Okay. So, 1972, Chicago, Illinois. Okay, this family moves into this home. And around about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, they see this man, this apparition of a man, walking over to the couch. And an apparition of a woman appears on the couch. And he winds up slapping this woman. And then it vanishes. It's gone. Well, they see it about maybe 6 or 7 times. So they go to this block party, and the host of the block party says, "Yeah, we have this every year. Here's our photo albums of our past events. Go ahead and take a look at it." So here, they're looking at the photos, and then the woman, she's just totally astonished. And she goes, "Those are the ghosts in my house." And the guy looks at the picture, and he goes, "Ghosts? What are you talking about?" He goes, "That man and woman did live in your house. They had domestic disputes. The police were there all the time, and they're now divorced. She lives 5 blocks down from this road, and the man lives out of state. They're very much alive."
Wow.
So what they're seeing is the negative energy that was projected into the atmosphere from this couple because of the violence in the house. And that is being replayed over and over and over again. That's a case of living ghosts.
Interesting.
Sometimes in our investigations, we have investigations where it's residual energy, and it's negative energy from the past. And we might go into a home, and they say, "Okay, the cabinets are opening and slamming." It's because some kind of negative event happened in that house where the husband or the wife was slamming the cabinets in the kitchen, and now it slams on its own because of the negative energy that just stayed in that house.
So would it be fair to say that the electromagnetic fields around the Earth and throughout the different areas, including grid lines, can actually harness or maintain that negative energy that was once there and keep it there, perpetually repeating the loop?
Yeah, and well, just like my wife, and she's a sensitive, and she came to HPI, Halo Paranormal Investigations, as a client, and she has sensitive abilities. She can touch an object and pick up the energy from it and tell you who owned it, how the person came in possession of it. In fact, she did that today. She went to the dentist's office, And the dental hygienist says, Deanna, hold on to this. And Deanna was holding on to it, and she started describing the person who once owned it. And she was describing the dental hygienist's mother, deceased mother. And it's just energy around that object.
And, there's so much more for us to understand, and I think that we're a very naive species if we think we have all the answers.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, I want to talk to you when we come back from this break, that I have to take our final break, about Natalie Holloway in Aruba.
Oh, yes. That was a good case.
Can you give us about a 1-minute teaser?
Well, I went to Aruba because I heard that people were seeing an apparition of a blonde-haired woman on the beach. And I was thinking, that's possibly Natalie Holloway. So let me check it out. Oh, you want me to continue?
Well, yeah. No. We'll take the break now. That was good.
Okay, we'll take a break.
That was good. Okay. I was listening. I wanted to hear more, and boom. All right, Paul Dale Roberts is our guest. Now, do you guys have a website?
Yes. It's www.jasmaonline.com. And there you'll see all our evidence, you'll see all our stories, and all you have to do is click on HPI and you'll see over 1,000 stories. Because we've been on over 1,000 investigations, so you'll see over 1,000 stories on there.
All right. Exonation, you heard it right here from the man himself, Paul Dale Roberts. Fascinating guy. Geez, and we're not even halfway through, and the interview is nearly over. We'll have to have him back on again, right, guys? You bet. All right, stand by. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
I've been doing this show for 25 years, and I've never heard a story or an experience like Paul Dale Roberts had with those two ladies, if I can use that phrase or that word to describe them, and their baseball bat. My God. First of all, Paul, thanks so much for coming on the show. We're going to have you back on because we've only scratched the surface of all the work you've done with your crew. But I'd like you to finish the story about the Natalie Holloway in Aruba case.
Yes, Natalie Holloway. So I was getting all these little stories about where these people were seeing a blonde woman, an apparition of a blonde woman walking along the beach. And automatically I thought, that's got to be Natalie Holloway. So when I got to Aruba, I started talking to different people, and people didn't know me, and they kind of shunned me, and they was like, okay, who's this nut? And so I handed out my little business card, and I said, well, I just got done doing a show with Penn and Teller. And so they had the internet, and the TV was facing the bar, and they put it on, and people on the bar were watching it, and they go, okay, it's that guy right there. So before I knew it, I had their attention, and I was able to talk to them about this ghost of Natalie Holloway. And so on the night of the investigation, I had like 15 people meeting me at the beach. And everybody had a story, and one of the stories was that that they knew Duran, and they knew Duran's father. And Duran had actually told them that it was his father that took Natalie out into the ocean and dumped her body, and that the father actually helped him in disposing of the body, and that Natalie was possibly still alive when she went over on the boat and thrown off by her father, by Joanne's father. So anyway, we went to all these different little areas along the beach where they thought that Natalie Holloway was taken to. And I wasn't getting anything. I was trying to get EVPs, nothing. Then finally in this one location, and when I'm conducting an EVP, everybody has to be very, very silent. And I do what is called a quick and dirty EVP. And I'll say something very small like, who's there?
Paul,
What's
Paul, we've got about 30 seconds. Can we?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
30 seconds. Okay, real fast.
All right.
Okay, so anyway, I said, is there anyone here at the beach?
Mm-hmm.
And this woman's voice came on there and said, help me. It was a female voice. Nobody said it. They said, help me. Everybody was astonished. They thought it was Natalie.
Paul Dale Roberts, thank you so much for joining us tonight here in the X Zone. You've got to come back on. We have so much more to talk about. But until you do, let our listeners know what your website is, please.
Yes, it's www.jasmaonline.com. And also, too, you can go to my wife's website. It's www.teardropsofanangel.com.
Paul, take care of yourself and watch out for women wielding baseball bats.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you for having me on.
It's been a great pleasure. Have a nice evening, sir.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
it
you
for
too.
tonight, Exonation. I'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. So until tomorrow night, remember, always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.